Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am joining forces with Tinashe Hair to show you how to make a frontal. So this video is sponsored by Tinashe Hair. Quickly, let's get that out of the way. And I'll have all the information about the hair and my sponsorships down below. So they did send a mirror. They always send a mirror, and they send a card to just give you information about the hair and all of that. I'm a terrible person. I never read these cards, but they are valuable and they do give valuable information. So always read anything that comes with whatever you order, whether it's hair, electronics, whatever. Just read it, you know, because you just never know. So this is the hair that I'm using. I do have a 20-inch frontal, and this is a deep wave texture. It's pretty obvious, but I have a frontal right here, and I'm gonna quickly show you how to quickly make a frontal wig so you're not spending too much time, because this is gonna be done in under an hour. And I do have 24-inch bundles, 3 of them. If you're dealing with like 16 inches or under, I would advise just getting 2 because you don't need that much hair. And usually when you get too much hair, you can have more shedding and it's so bulky and heavy. You don't want that at all. So I am using this wig cap. This is my favorite kind, the mesh dome style wig cap. And I'm gonna open it up and put it on my, wow, it's pretty beaten up, but that's my styrofoam mannequin head that I'm using. It's not legit. It's not a legitimate blockhead. It's kind of like an AliExpress blockhead. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it down with my pearlized pins. These are my favorite because the T-pins, what happens is my thread gets stuck in those. So I like these ones. Nothing gets stuck on, around, anything like that in between. So in the back, I start in the middle and pin down. And the back is more important than the front. I pin again, just going down, straight down. Okay, and you go off the wig cap, like go off. There is going to be excess if you have a small head like I do. I'm dealing with a 22-inch blockhead, so that's my wig cap circumference. And I will cut that later, the excess hair. But I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the blanket stitch, sewing through, and I'm going to go around. Now the frontal, that's where my tiniest stitches are. When I'm dealing with the tracks in the back, I can, you know, be a little bit more flexible and lazy and make them larger, but I always make sure that in the very front, whether I'm dealing with a closure or a frontal, I make small stitches approximately 3 millimeters apart, no more than half a centimeter. I'm gonna keep going up all the way around, and that is basically all I do in the front. This takes me no more than 10 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and join the first bundle in the back. This is so easy because I'm dealing with the same length, but if I was dealing with different lengths, say 18, 20, 22, I would start with the longest length in the back, but I do join the 2. The bundle to where I stopped on the frontal when I got down, and then I go around. I don't like cutting too much thread because you don't want your wig to have so many points where you ended the thread. I don't like that. So I like to join as much as possible and make it as fluid and seamless as possible. What you do is, like, close to the frontal, maybe make a few small stitches, then make them larger. And as you can see, I am pinning my hair down. So this is ideal if you want everything to go beautifully and go back and forth and have your wig lying down nicely. But I make larger stitches as I keep going. Anywhere where I'm going to be flipping over, like here for instance, I make the stitches a little bit smaller because this is like a critical area in my mind. Anywhere where you're joining tracks or flipping anything over, you want to make smaller stitches, and then as you just kind of go along a line, you can make larger stitches. You have more flexibility that way. So I flip over and I stitch through, and I continue stitching just a couple more stitches that are a little bit small, and then I make my stitches larger as I go. I make sure in between I will have a gap of 1 or 1.5 finger spaces. In this particular case, I do have a slightly wider gap than usual. Usually it's my pinky finger when I'm dealing with one track at a time. But here I'm using my index finger and going up just a little bit more because I doubled up the track. So I'm dealing with more hair at any given time. So I need a slightly larger gap than my pinky finger so that it's not too bulky. And usually, you know, something along the lines of 1.5 finger spaces works for me. Of course, that's not a good measurement because everybody has different sized fingers, but 1.5 to 2 finger spaces is okay. Just make sure that while you are stitching, you don't see any gaps. That's the rule of thumb for me. When you see the area that you're stitching on, if you kind of like mess with the hair a little bit, you don't see any gaps between tracks, you're good, okay? If you see gaps, you probably need to fill that in because somebody else is gonna see it when you wear the wig because the wig is gonna stretch out. So I am going to keep going in that little semicircle back and forth with doubled up tracks. This really speeds up the process, you guys. This wig took me about 45 minutes to make, even with filming, because I doubled up the tracks, and it's ideal for somebody who just doesn't want to spend that much time, and you're not making a wig for a client, so why should you feel compelled to go through like great measures and go to great lengths to make this perfect, overly perfect wig? You don't need to, so go ahead and make some slightly larger stitches, somewhere in between 1 to 1.5 centimeters wide in the gap. And you can sew how you want, but I found that doing a blanket stitch holds the track in place no matter how large your stitches are. So here we are at the top, and I flipped the wig over. I'm gonna go ahead and cut. Any excess wig cap is gone. Okay, and you can stitch this some more to finish it off and make it look nice and polished, but I chose not to do that this time because of time constraints. But it's always good to go back in there and sew some more just to make sure nothing gets unraveled, just in case. But here I am, I flipped it back over so you get a close-up of the lace, and I'm just cutting along the lace line. What I will do later on is cut the actual wig where the excess came over. So I'm cutting. So I'm applying some Got To Be Glued gel and then following up with the freeze spray and patting all of that in using my sponge. This is ideal for me, and it makes it so that I don't use too much product. Right now I'm gonna apply the wig, and then I'm going to go ahead and frame my face. So I do apologize, I'm talking but I'm not talking. The sound was terrible. I wanted to talk to you guys as I did this part, but the sound came out horrible, so you will see points where I'm talking, but yeah, that's what happens. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix my part area and try to get in, because I'm terrible at baby hairs, you guys, but I'm gonna fix my part area and fix just a few spaces in between on the scalp, fake scalp, the lace, to make it look like scalp. So I just kind of pull hair apart and then go in between and color in so that it looks like there's scalp underneath. That's what I like to do to cheat instead of having to pluck the wig, because, you know, over time plucking does take a toll on your units and then you start looking bald, so I'm delaying the balding process. Besides, some people do have thick hairlines anyway, so yeah, we'll just fake it. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and try to lay my baby hairs. I'm terrible at this, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at it. And I try to keep it simple, because when you start complicating things, you start to look a hot mess. I'm guilty. I did not wash my hair this time because I liked how it looked. I just applied mousse, and you guys know how I feel about mousse. So yeah, I applied some just to define the curls a little bit, and then I realized that after using the hot comb, my part was too flat and I didn't like that flat look, so I flipped it over. And that's the thing about making a wig. You need to play with it and play with parts and flip it any way you want to until you find what looks good on you. I looked terrible, but once I flipped it over, I got this extra volume and a nice little hump up there. So I'm bringing my hair back and I'm going to go ahead and do my baby hairs. I didn't show you guys this part because I just did not know what I was doing, but you can see my part is not perfect, and that is perfect because it looks natural, it looks real, you know? So I did not make my part perfectly straight. I didn't want it to look too wiggy, even though it's pretty obvious that this is a wig. And I have a little hump in the front. It's very cute. I'm also using my hot comb again, this time just to make sure the side lies down a little bit more than the front. And what I've discovered now is the back is better sometimes than using the combs, especially with curly hair, because you don't want to accidentally comb your curls. So I just used the butt of the hot comb, and this is what we're looking like, you guys. I made a wig in 45 minutes. It took me about 15 minutes to fix it up. Of course, the makeup doesn't count in the hour, but thank you so much for watching. As always, I will have all the information down in the description box for anybody who's interested in this hair or anything you saw in this video. And if you have questions, ask. But I'll talk to you guys in my next video. And until then, take care.